This shows my taste a little bit. I love gritty films especially, and that brought me to literature, to crime literature like this. I first heard about Edward Bunker from Michael Mann in watching kind of his commentary about films such as Heat. Well, he did Heat, Collateral, Thief, years before that, the Miami Vice, and so forth. And Michael Mann, in the movie Heat, there's a character played by Jon Voight that is based on Edward Bunker. And Edward Bunker is this character over here. But I guess he had like longer hair at one point, because the Jon Voight character in Heat has long hair, but you could actually recognize the features, and kind of, I think they probably picked up his cadence of speaking as well. And then also Edward Bunker became kind of a cameo actor, and you see on the front of this cover there's a quote from Quentin Tarantino, and Edward Bunker is in that opening scene in Reservoir Dogs, where they're at the cafe, and I believe he's in like the initial warehouse too, but I think it's just the cafe. So he did cameos, and he was, this book, No Beast So Fierce, was adapted into a film that's very closely follows the book. Apparently, I haven't seen it. It's with Dustin Hoffman, and I think I don't know. I think it was probably his idea to make it. I'm not sure of the backstory of that film, but it's called Straight Time, and I don't know. I just think it's like not the best casting. I mean, I watched the trailer, and Dustin Hoffman, I don't think he's as hard as these guys. He's just like, he's an actor, and I think it's always kind of ridiculous sometimes when you take these actors and they play like really hard people. It's never realistic, because they've never had the life experience of these guys. So, backstory of Edward Bunker: he was a lifelong criminal, and he spent about 8 years in jail for armed robbery. And this is, well, I wouldn't say it's a roman à clef, I don't believe. Well, it's definitely a fiction, because he didn't commit these crimes once he got out. But basically, the novel starts with a character similar to him. He's in jail, and he gets out, and he's trying to go straight. But all the odds are against him. So I'm going to take you through the little experience of the highlights of this book. And so it's called No Beast So Fierce. And I'll read the back for you, because this is something that I enjoy doing all the time, and it usually sells me on the book. But I encountered this book, like I said, I saw it in an interview, and then I searched for it online, and I didn't really get to see the back. But so No Beast So Fierce is an angry and mercilessly suspenseful novel about an ex-con's attempt to negotiate the straight world and his swan dive back into the paradoxical security of crime. It is airtight in its construction, almost photorealistic in its portrayal of LA lowlife, and utterly knowledgeable about the terrors of liberty, the high of the quick score, and the rage that makes the finger tighten on the trigger of a gun. I mean, I think that's beautifully written. Whoever did the copy for that, I think did a fantastic job. It's actually very stylistically the way I love to write. I love kind of cool, catchy stuff like that, and trigger of a gun ending with that is just powerful. So there's going to be spoilers in this book, in this recommendation or review. Just a heads up. So there's a lot of great quotes. He's been very influential. There's some other books by him. For me, it's just a matter of getting in the mood for this kind of literature. so I'm always reading like quite a different range of books. But I love this, and when I get back into the mood, I'll definitely read more of his work. So I like to always, let's see what the opening is, because I forget the opening, and I don't remember it standing out. But the ending, I'm going to spoil for you and read to you. This is kind of nice, the quote from William Blake. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every ban, the mind-forged manacles I hear. The mind-forged manacles I hear. William Blake. I mean, see, this is these. I guess like I love it when like with writing and art, everything lines up, because I spent like my teens and my college years like devouring romantic poetry, and you know, it just lines up. It kind of all adds up, like why I like, you know, why I gravitate to this kind of writing, because this is what he likes, you know. So it's like, you know, yeah. So I don't know. I don't think this is a great beginning. I sat on the lidless toilet at the rear of the cell, shining the hideous bulb-toed shoes that were issued to those being released. You know, it's a good line, because it's like, you know, he's on the toilet, and I think like, you know, it's like as low as like the meaning as you can, and he's shining shoes because he's trying to like, you know, put the best foot forward because he's going to be released, you know. So I think it's a great line for writers, because you know it presents to you exactly who the character is and exactly where he's going. You know, he's about to be released. So he tries to, I mean, I explained like the back, he's trying to go straight. And there's some great scenes. I'm not going to talk about all those, I don't think. I don't want to keep this too long. But I want to kind of go through some quotes that I highlighted. I think this was one this is kind of my marking. Sometimes I get these used books and they have other markings. But I must have liked this, because this is kind of my kind of bracket. A neon forest was coming alive. The aureole of brilliance around each tube grew as it ate the night. Colors flashed, spasms, bubbled illustrations, whirled and exploded, gleamed on the waxed metal of automobiles. I began walking toward the west simply because the brighter lights were there. I had to make some choice, some movement. I don't know, I must have liked just that top part, you know, like the bubbled illustrations. Colors flashed, spasms. You know, like there's good descriptions. I mean, he did a fantastic job, and I had read maybe in the introduction that it took him forever to get this published. Like it was like probably he wrote it while he started it in prison, and I think he edited it afterward, and it took him like several years to get it published. So, you know, I mean, it's phenomenally tight. It's like phenomenal. There's another passage here that I really, really loved. And it's like, it's the scene that's presented here. I'm going to read this section here because I loved his descriptions. The concrete building that housed the parole department's Neyline testing center could have been designed by the same architect who designed the jail. It had the same neo-Orwellian blankness. It stood in a run-down neighborhood. Rosenthal parked in a lot beside the building. As we got out, I noticed the neighborhood's empty silence. The streets of the city's poor usually teem with motion and noise. This was deserted, as if the malignity in its midst was alien to life. Dusk's light had ceased to peer over the rooftops and now sneaked between the buildings and lighted the shapes into unreality. The dozen automobiles in this lot were new or nearly so. Most were compacts, economical, luxury bucket seats, white sidewalls, gleaming chrome. This was for personnel only. We walked to the sidewalk and turned toward the front door. Another parking lot was on the other side of the building. It was much larger, but unpaved, a vacant lot. Automobiles were scattered at random, sagging from rutted earth and their own arthritic suspensions. There were a spectrum of yesteryear's models. Each one looked as if Willie Darren belonged behind the wheel. But women occupied most of them, and some of the women held babies, or watched them skitter about in search of games, as if this was a park. Each woman was waiting for a man to run the gauntlet, and each was necessarily in fear that her man would disappear into the maw, to be next heard from back in prison. I knew the women had worn faces, for they had to reflect the lives of their men. I think this is like one of the most powerful examples of how good this book is. And I apologize if I ruined some things, because I was thinking, oh, maybe I should lead you to where I'm at. But I love this description because it describes the parking lot, and he doesn't tell you necessarily that these parole officers are doing much better, and then these poor wives of convicts, are dirt poor, and they're left. Well, he kind of tells you, but he illustrates it by the cars, and I love the fact that he's illustrating kind of the abundances and lack of between the two parking lots, and also even the way the cars are parked, they're more organized in one side of the parking lot, and they're nice chrome cars, and on the other side they're just you picture them just kind of half it's just skidding into each slot, but just loose and at an angle, and just falling apart, these old cars. I think it's I just loved it, and it's actually a book that I would love to read again. Another beautiful example, I love a good Nietzsche quote. And so I'm going to share this with you too, because I enjoy it. In the loneliest desert, the second metamorphosis occurs. The spirit here becomes a lion. It wants to capture freedom and be lord in its own desert. The great dragon is called "Thou shalt," but the spirit of the lion says, "I will." Yeah, Nietzsche. So there's not much I could add to that. And then the spoiler, so you can ignore the spoiler at this point and maybe fast forward 2 minutes to the wrap up. But I'm going to read you the last lines, because I revisited it in preparation for this book, and I thought it was pretty good, because I don't skip ahead usually, but except if it's a famous novel that I know that's the ending, but usually I like the ending, find me, but I was very satisfied with this ending. And you could tell by the separation here of the paragraph in the end, that he must have worked on it a lot to find that perfect ending to this book. And it's his first book, very, very strong ending. I'm leaving this idyllic place. After selling the diamonds and sending $10,000 to both Aaron's mother and Carol, I had $170,000 left, and a tenth of that remains. I'm also tired of peace, but the shortage of funds gives me an excuse. My stomach is nervous with anticipation of playing the game again. I'll fly to Mexico City, cross the border at El Paso. They might get me this time. Fuck it. I think that's so fucking cool. I just love that so much. I'll show it with the back here because I love his face, but so spoiler over. I think it's a great, highly enjoyable book. Especially if you love first person crime novels. It's excellent. So it's just my recommendation. It's gotten some great reviews, and I'm so happy I encountered this book. And it's like, it definitely reads like a great film, especially if you like that genre, the crime genre, films by Michael Mann, even Quentin Tarantino. Those are all drawing inspiration from Edward Bunker, and more specifically, No Beast So Fierce. And I believe Michael Mann, in that quote that I saw from an interview with him, he listed this as like the best crime novel ever written, and Quentin Tarantino echoes that, the best first-person crime novel I've ever read. So there it is, Edward Bunker, No Beast So Fierce. Feel free to let me know if you encounter this book and you read it. Let me know what you think. And check out masterpieceartschool.com for more recommendations like this. Thank you. See you next time.